All right. Good afternoon, everyone. If I may have your attention. Good to see everyone. I'm very happy that you're all here. We have a mix of family members and researchers today, which is great, I think. You've probably seen us running around a little bit before. It was a little bit of chaos with ending the conference and having you here, but we're all here, so that's good. We're starting a little bit later, but we have a very tight schedule. I think you've already seen that. So this is a bit of our program. I'm just doing the opening. Then we have some talks from our researchers here. We're very happy that they're willing to spend some time with us. And then we're going to do community conversations, which I'm going to tell you a little bit about later because we think it's very exciting. We hope you too feel the same way. You'll see that there's cameras. We are recording, but we're making sure that you're not visible, so they're only focusing on us as speakers to make sure that your privacy is guaranteed. We're recording because we think that this is a very, very special occasion, and I'll tell you why. It's the first time that the consortium is all together. So that means that the researchers from Leiden, from Australia and from America are together in one room. And we spent an entire day this week discussing on how research is going, but also focusing on what is necessary to get to a treatment. And I think it's the first time in a very long time that we felt this hopeful about a possible better future for all of us. And we want to include you in those stories. We want you to know as well what is going on. So that's why we're here. And that's why we're recording, because we also want the families in the Netherlands and in other places to be part of what we're doing here today and know what we're all about to tell you as well. So again, very welcome. We're very happy that you're here. Before this week started, so I arrived on Tuesday. Some of you might know me. I was here in 2020 as well. I am the ambassador for the Patient Association in the Netherlands. My parents have started that association, and I've been working towards a treatment for almost 15 years now as a patient advocate. So I was here in 2020. I know lots of you, but I also see some new faces for me, so that's good. I'm really happy that you're here. Also very happy to see I've kind of been adopted into the family, so there's some relatives here. It's very good to see them as well. It's been 3 years, so that's really good. I think I wrote this sort of speech before I even arrived in Australia about what I wanted to tell you. And then throughout the weeks, I got all this input from the researchers, but also from the family members. I had a lot of talks with Dini and with Dorinda and with Carol. And kind of a switch changed in my mind, I think, about what I wanted to say going into this afternoon. Because what I realized is that we've been working in the Netherlands for a very long time to give family members the opportunity to talk about the disease, to open up about the disease, and to get people in their 30s and in their 40s who might not want to think about it to think about it. And you might ask, why would we talk about it, or why would we think about it? Because it's a burden. We all know that it's a burden. We never ask for this disease, and yet we have to deal with it every day, whether we like it or not. And sometimes it's easier to not think about it or to push it away a little bit, especially when you're younger. Let's say my generation, I'm in my 30s. It's not always easy to be dealing with the disease. So what we want to talk to you about today is why we think that it's good that you do. And we know it's not always easy, but we want to get to a treatment altogether. And we're all waiting for that treatment. I know that you're waiting for it too. Everybody wants a cure. And you've been losing family members as well. And I just want to take the time to mention Anna, who was my Aussie mom, who died last year from the disease, which must have been, it was hard for me, and I've only been part of the family for so long, so it must have been really hard for you as well. So we've all seen what it means when you are a gene carrier and to lose someone. And we all want that treatment to be there. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to inform you. We're not pushing you to do anything. We're going to inform you about what's going on with the research right now, what that means for us as family members, what we can hope for the future. And I'm telling you, I'm hopeful. And I've always been very careful with my words because we've been disappointed before, so we're careful. But I think that today we are allowed to be hopeful, and these people will tell you why. We're going to do the talks before the break, and then we have 10 minutes for questions. I know it's very short, but we're just short on time. So we have an hour and a half afterwards with drinks and bites, and we can all get together. So if your question get lost because we don't have enough time, we'll have time for it later. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. And then afterwards, we are going to ask you to have a conversation with each other about what you think about when you think about a treatment and what actually is an obstacle for you to participate, maybe. So we're going to be interactive, and we're going to put you to work. And I don't know if that was the idea that you came in with, and I don't know if you're enthusiastic about that idea, but I just want to make sure that you understand we're going to put the researchers to work as well, because we want to bridge the gap between the family members and the researchers. And we're going to see if we can bring the two worlds together. So I hope for the second part of our program, you're going to trust us. We thought about it, and we've put a lot of work into it. And yeah, let's hope we all walk out of this room with at least a good feeling and a feeling of togetherness, I hope. All right. I'm gonna go to Hamid. You're going first. And Hamid will tell us a little bit about what's going on with TRACK DCAA in Perth. Thank you.
Thank you, Sane. Good afternoon to everyone, and thanks for making time and coming here. As some of you may know, we had the 8th International CAA conference here in Perth for the last few days. We were very excited that we managed to get the conference coming to Perth for the first time, going anywhere outside Europe and North America. So that was an extremely interesting journey for us, because we were not CAA researchers to begin with. We dominantly inherited Alzheimer's network, that some of the family members were part of that study back in 2010-11. And then we gradually moved on, and Diane supported our study for some time. After a while, they didn't sort of continue the support because those with Dutch CAA condition were not developing Alzheimer's disease, which was supposed to be supported by that study. So we were trying to find some funding and some collaborations, and that's where we were introduced to Professor Steve Greenberg and also to Professor Marika Wermer and Mark van Boekem from Leiden. And we started this collaboration around, I think, 2016 for the first time we met, and then continued talking about the collaboration until now that we have a project called TRACK CAA, which is a collaboration between Leiden University Medical Center, Boston, Massachusetts General Hospital, if I'm naming it correctly, and also Australian Alzheimer's Research Foundation, Perth site for Diane that is now working inclusively on TRACK CAA for this project. So we are very grateful to the family members who have been supporting this project for a long time. My job is to give you a little bit of information of where we are with TRACK CAA recruitment in Western Australia. Okay, so to begin with, as a site, we are expected to recruit 50 participants. And as you can see there, we managed to recruit 13 participants so far. We have 3 participants scheduled to be assessed, and also we are hoping that another 14 candidates will be coming to participate in the study at some point. So you can see the adds up do not quite get to the 50 participants that we want. And unfortunately, that's not promising for us, because later on we may face a little bit of trouble continuing with going towards a clinical trial. So to sort of try make the situation a little bit better, we have tried to go nationally advertising for the TRACK CAA study. That went actually very well unexpectedly. We didn't expect so many responses. As you can see, about 140 responses we received, and all of them were, so all of them were in response to a specific advertisement about TRACK CAA, which is quite promising for us. We don't think that all of these individuals are from Dutch CAA families, but even if we get a good 5-6 members included, then they could have some family members that can participate in the study. So altogether, we are hoping that at one stage we get to 50 participants, but of course, as we have had so far the support of the family, we need your support quite extensively so that we can move to the next stage. I won't be talking about why we need this study to be completed, but I should emphasize that if we complete this study, we will be in a good position to have a clinical trial site here in Western Australia. So about the clinical trial and its promise and potential, I'll leave it to Professor Greenberg to talk about later on. So as you can see, we have one definite person who has contacted us talking about Katwijkse disease. Unfortunately, the person has indicated that the family member is not in Australia, is somewhere else, so we don't know if we will be able to bring them to Australia to do all the assessment 1 week or 2 weeks and then going back. So we are hoping that 5 to 6 promising individuals will be recruitable into the study. So as I mentioned, we need your help and support. Please contact Samantha Gardner. Most of you know Sam for a long time. She has been coordinating this study and also Diane's study, and she will be giving you all the information that you need for being recruited into the study if you are not recruited into the study. So that's all that I want to mention, I guess, and then I'll leave it for Marika. You don't have any? Okay.
So hello everybody, my name is Marieke Wermer. I'm a stroke neurologist from Leiden, and it's great to be back here. I was here almost 3 years ago, so probably I've seen already some of you, but I'm very happy to be here again and tell you a bit about the study in Leiden, the TRACK DCAA study. Unfortunately, I have to catch my plane, so I have to leave at 3 o'clock. I only made a few slides, so to have also some room for questions, because otherwise maybe you want to ask me something and I'm gone. And of course, I also have an email address, so you're happy to, you're always welcome to email me. So a little history. We know that Dutchtype CAA already runs in families for a long time. Sanne is trying to get to the first mutation carrier, and I think she's stuck somewhere in the 17th century, but she has data now from the church going back to the 14th century. So for many, many years, this disease is there, but it was not recognized until the 60s, 70s, when this guy, Professor Luijendijk, who was a neurosurgeon in Leiden at that time, noticed that there were so many young persons in our region who had intracerebral hemorrhages, and they also seemed to be related to each other. And then together with the family physician, they tried to get more information about these families, and started to reporting them in literature. So in the 80s, the first reports in medical literature came up about this disease, which they called hereditary cerebral hemorrhage with amyloidosis, Dutch type. And that's because on pathology, when you look at brain tissue, they found that there was a protein called amyloid in the blood vessels. Well, as you probably know, in the Netherlands we also call it Katwijkse Ziekte, Katwijkse disease, because the village where most of the family members live in in the Netherlands is Katwijk. And in more recent years, because it was so difficult to pronounce this other name, Professor Steven Greenberg came up with the simple idea just to call it Dutchtype CAA, so DCAA, which makes life a bit more easy. So in 1990, the mutation was identified in Leiden, and then for a while, not that much research happened. We do not exactly know how many mutation carriers there are. We estimate around 500, maybe more in the Netherlands, and well, we also don't know exact numbers for Australia, but maybe up to 100 is the estimation. And the Netherlands and Australia are very different. I looked at the internet to see how, if you look at the sizes of the countries, so the Netherlands can fit into Australia for 200 times. So it's just to get an idea how small the country is. So it's here in Western Europe, as you can see here next to Germany, for people who have never been there. Probably many of you have never been to the Netherlands. I don't know where there people here that have visited the Netherlands? Oh yeah, a few. Well, you're very much welcome, of course, right? So a difference is that in Leiden, the families live very close to the hospital. So this is our academic hospital in Leiden, so it's only a few miles away. And whereas here in Australia, most family members are from Albany, I was told, which is, I think, a 6-hour drive to Perth. So it's amazing that you're all here, actually, with this long drive and participating in research, because it's much more effort because of the distance, I think. But there are also a lot of similarities, so both fishing villages, and I thought this was a striking picture because it looks very similar. Probably if you're at the place itself, Sanne knows, you've been to both places.
It's very different.
Yeah, but I like this picture because it seems so similar. So after the identification of the gene, for a long time, no research was going on until Mark van Buchem, head of our radiology department, met Steve Greenberg, and they started collaborating and started raising money for research. And then the EDEN study started, and that was a study that was aimed at looking at mainly the radiology markers of the disease, and comparing this with healthy controls. And that already gave us a lot of insight in how the disease is developing. So I cannot emphasize enough how much we have learned by studying this disease, about how the disease develops. And we, for example, found that there's already a quite early start with a very long time window, probably 10 to 20 years before first hemorrhages occur. And I think that's a good thing, because if we can find factors that can modify the disease course, then we have a very long window of opportunity, and the same holds for treatment options. So after EDEN, the Dutch Heart Foundation saw the importance of studying Dutchtype CAA, and we started a larger study where we included everybody who wanted to participate to look at more these factors that might modulate disease progression and have more an idea about the disease course over a longer time. So the follow-up time there is about 5 years. But I think that TRACK DCAA, so our new study, is really something different because it's really looking towards the future and towards a therapy trial, and that's what, of course, we all want, right? So it's designed to look at optimal, what we call biomarkers for a future trial, and that's if you want to test a therapy, you want to know if it works, right? So you need some, things to look if they're, for example, decreasing over time. So certain abnormalities on MRI scans or in the spinal fluid, we want preferably do a trial that will not take 10 to 20 years, but only a few years to see if it's working. So you want to have those kind of estimates also on the short term. So that's why we want to look at short-term biomarkers, how we call them. We also want to see about natural history. So what happens when you, like now, we don't have a treatment, but we can use those data if we see how the brain abnormalities, for example, develop to be used in a future clinical trial. You can already use that information in a future trial. And we can see, well, how many people are there that want to participate. That's also very important. I think, if you want to do a trial and you want to have pharmaceutical companies on board, the first question they ask is, well, but how many people are there and do they really want to participate? So we really also see it as an important thing for this study to estimate how many people would be willing to participate in a future trial. I didn't talk about, I was not sure if Amit would mention the inclusion criteria. That's so when can you participate in the study? Well, when you are between 25 and 60 years of age, and when you have had a test that confirms that you have the mutation. But if you don't want to know your mutation status, you can still participate if you have one first-degree relative with the disease. And then we will test you, always, of course, be very careful about privacy, and the doctors that you will be seeing will not know that you will have the mutation, yes or no, but we'll use codings for that. But then if you don't have the mutation, we are still, the data are very precious because we can use them as a healthy control, as a comparison. So what we do is, unfortunately, lumbar punctures, and most people think that they are awful, and of course you don't want to have them if it's not necessary. But on the other hand, we also know that it's not, such a big thing. Usually when you got one, you thought, okay, was this it? So it's good to have a little perspective on this, and if you have any doubt about it, talk to people who had them, and maybe you're hearing stories that it's not such a fearful thing that you might think. We think it's very important because probably the future medication will also be given through the spinal fluid. It's not certain, but it's likely. And it gives us a lot of information about what is happening in the brain when we can look at the CSF, the spinal fluid. It's very important, but it's not the nicest thing. We're aware of that, of course. Also, we perform MRI scans, and in Leiden we have additional MRI, which is a very high field strength MRI. In both centers we'll do PET imaging, and that's a type of imaging where you can actually quantify the amyloid, so the protein. And here in Perth, you will also get a very nice picture. And I've heard from Dini that you can even take it home, maybe. If you're, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but it really looks very amazing. We do not do that in Leiden because we're not really specialized in that. And then there are some cognitive tests and questionnaires about sleep, about lifestyle, and things like that. So we started in Leiden last year, and Hamid showed you already the numbers in Perth, but in Leiden we now included 35 patients, and we planned another 9 for the upcoming weeks. So we're approaching the 50. So if we zoom into the characteristics of the patients who participate, or the healthy controls mutation carriers, we don't know, of course. The mean age is around 40. Most of them are women. I was told that that's not uncommon in research. I didn't know that, actually, but women are more participating in research. So most of them had all the study procedures, so the lumbar puncture, the MRI, and the PET. We're a bit behind schedule with the PET, actually, but and we already had our first 5 persons coming back to the hospital for their first follow-up visit, so that's great. So this is our team, great team on both sides, and it's really been, I think, for me, very special to collaborate, and very big pleasure to collaborate, and I think a unique situation where we can do research in families with the same mutation, and combining the data. And I think we showed in previously that it's also very important to combine the data, and I think a very nice example is, I don't know, maybe Steve was also going to mention that when we looked at, for example, the amyloid beta scans in the Netherlands, we could not really find a signal, and when the Diane participants, we looked at them, we could not find a signal, but by combining them together, then there was a signal, and that learns us again a lot about the disease. So the combination of the two sides is, I think, very important. And I'll end with this slide. So this is a slide that I stole from Mark van Buchem. He used it once, and I was very impressed by it. It's from a Dutch painter, Jan Torop, and he painted a boat at a beach at Katwijk. And as you may know, Katwijk does not have a harbor, which is a bit strange, I think, for a fishing village, but Sanne convinced me that it was not. So all the boats were on the beach, and when they were going to fish, then everybody was needed, actually, to push the boat into the sea, and that's how I see it. So we need everybody, we need all people who want to participate, and we really appreciate so much, all the effort and all the days you have to take off from work, and all the procedures that you undergo. But we think it's such important step now, and together with the researchers and everybody together actually push the boat into the sea, and hopefully we find a treatment at the horizon. That's what we hope. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions. Don't know if there is a little time. Okay, so thank you. Are there any questions? Don't think so, right? One.
Just a question. So I can see from an Australian perspective at this point in time, to get to the 50 is going to be challenging simply because of the age of the generations. Sorry. I can see in Australia that it will be a bit of a challenge getting to 50 because of the age of the generations, and it's mostly our younger ones who would be not able to join in. So would, considering you have far more, obviously, in the Netherlands who would have Dutch CAA, would you be planning then to have more than 50 in yours, and could that somehow just help us out, or doesn't it work that way?
Yeah, we have to see. We hope that, of course, a lot of people also here will participate. If we would not reach the 100, then we will see if it's possible to recruit more from the Netherlands, and see how that, we'll certainly discuss that, that possibility. Yeah.
Ho, I can't
Yeah,
run so fast.
Yeah, it's 25 to 60,
Yeah.
and it was because we know that if we go, very early, then probably you won't find anything on the MRI scans, and if you go very late, then we think that if you have at least there will not be, hopefully, one treatment, but the treatment that we have in mind right now probably works, especially when you're not too late in the disease stage. So that's why we choose to have 60 as an upper limit and a maximum of one hemorrhage. That's also one of the inclusion criteria. Yeah.
Yeah, and in Aurora we do scan also above 60.
Yeah. So. That's certainly true, yeah. Okay, then I wish you a very nice afternoon and hope to see you again. Bye-bye.
Hi, good afternoon. Very nice to see everybody. I'm Steve Greenberg. I'm a stroke neurologist from Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston. I learned a new word in anticipation of this meeting. The word is antipode. Do people know what? Antipode is the opposite side of the world. So if you took a globe and sort of put a stick through from Perth, you would pretty much, and went right through the center of the globe, you would pretty much hit Boston. So there's really no place further that you could go to come see me, or that I could go to come see you. I came here once before in 2017. Was anyone here when I recognize faces, so many people. So it was just over 5 years ago. That turns out that is enough time for me to forget that I needed a visa to come. Which was, made a little extra excitement. And of course, I'm the most jet lagged you can be, because I'm from the antipode of Perth. And I'm speaking without slides now, so a jet lagged guy without slides could really say anything. But I'll just make a few remarks. We're, of course, here, as Sana said, we completed the first one of these international CAA conferences to be outside of North America or Europe. And so there are a whole bunch of jet-lagged people who came here. And, not to speak lightly about it, the reason, we've gotten to meet Professor Martins, Hamid Tarabi, the team here, and they've become our friends and our colleagues, and it's an amazing world-class team. But the reason the meeting here isn't because of them, it's because of you. It's because that Perth has become, or WA at least, has become one of the central, most important sites in CAA research, not for a reason that anybody wants it to be. It's because of this, what one gene can do. One person who had an abnormal gene, who had children, and they had children in the 14th century, or wherever Sana traces it back to. So I'm sure everybody would be just as happy if no one had ever heard of Perth or Albany for this reason, from a CA standpoint reason. But that is why everybody is here. And we just finished just a wonderful meeting full of just clear progress from each of these meetings. We have them every 2 years, and you would never mistake one for the one before it, because we've moved far each time. When I was a kid, I don't know if people had the same experience, and you would drive someplace, your parents would drive you someplace that was, an hour and a half or 2 hours away. When I grew up in Philadelphia, it would take about 2 hours to get to the beach in the Atlantic Beach. And when you're a kid, 10 minutes into the trip, you say, "Are we almost there?" Right? And your parents don't want to say, "We're not even close." So they say, "Oh yeah, just a little further. It's just." We just have to do one or two more turns. So you do one or two more turns, and you say, "Okay, we're there now, right?" And He said, well, no, not yet, but we're just a couple more, and you have to right turn, and then one left, and then you keep doing that for an hour and a half. You decide you're never going to make it, and that's the way we feel as doctors and scientists in this area. I mean, that we keep feeling like, okay, now we're really getting somewhere, and yet where's the treatment that we all want? And if we feel that way as a medical and a research community, of course, the patients and families feel that way 100 times. So everything should be taken with some skepticism that this is just another left turn and a right turn. But I'm the world's worst liar. You should play poker with me. I'm very bad at it. I think we've really never been closer. We've never been at this point where we can see something that looks like a powerful potential treatment. So, why is that true? Well, part of it is we in the biomedical community have done our jobs. That we've learned a lot about markers of the disease, the way to know what the steps are, how long those steps take, and we've been able to do our job because participants in research, and this is people with both the non-hereditary form of CA, the common form that is out around the world, I mean, is a worldwide problem, have done their jobs to join research studies and participate. And the much smaller community of people with hereditary forms of CA have had a much bigger impact than their numbers would suggest, that because of the fact that carrying a gene, that these changes are happening. You can test them years and decades before anybody would even know that CA was going on. This is a story I'm sure everyone knows well. It's why people have participated in studies like Diane or Eden or the other studies we've talked about. But this ability to track the early steps of the disease, and so we've done our job to bring us further. The patients, the families have done their job, and now the drug companies, the people who come up with the candidate treatments, are also doing their job, have made advances to bring candidate treatments to the table that we haven't seen before, and that coming together of the science, the patients, and the drug company candidate treatments is really what gives me this feeling of optimism that we've never had before. And from whenever you watch a movie, if you see a drug company in it, they're the bad guys, and luckily they're not. But they can be very hard-headed. They're not. They don't make decisions with their hearts. They make them with their heads. And so, why would they be interested in such an uncommon disease as the Dutchtype CAA? If they're going to make money, it would be in the worldwide problem of non-hereditary CAA. And I'm sad to say the other thing going against the Dutch CAA in terms of making money is that you don't live in America, because in America, the reimbursement for drugs, I don't know where we come up with the money that we spend on healthcare, but every company wants to get their drug approved in America because they get reimbursed better. So why from a company standpoint are people interested in Dutchtype CAA? And it's really for a very rational reason. They think they can get that it can work. In other words, they think that ability to start treating people during that period where the disease is inching along but hasn't yet taken hold, that may be the period that is most likely to respond to a treatment. So if you want your treatment, if you want to prove that your approach can work, there's great incentive for a drug company to try to prove that where it has the highest chances of working. We know nothing as guaranteed. We wish it was, but that decision by companies to look at Dutchtype CAA as a target is really based on that ability to find to show that their treatment is effective. So what treatment are we talking about? We've hinted around. We have to be a little bit cautious in that we have private conversations that we're asked to hold private, but there's a lot of information that's not private that's public. So we know that the TRACK DCAA study is sponsored by a company called Alnylam that's actually based in my hometown in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where I live. And by coincidence, I had no contact with them before their interest in CAA. And they have announced publicly that they are targeting two diseases, Alzheimer's disease and CAA. So that's not a private confidential statement. That's one that we can share. And what kind of treatments does this company Alnylam make? Well, they make ones targeted to the RNA. And I don't want to make people relive the traumas of high school biology, but RNA, you will remember, is the blueprint that makes the proteins that actually do the work in the body. They have a design, a blueprint, and why would you want to target the RNA instead of the protein? Well, you can target RNA much more specifically. You can do a kind of I don't like to use the term magic bullet. I don't like bullets at all, and I don't want to say anything is magic, but a truly targeted a candidate drug that only attacks one thing, and that one thing is the blueprint that makes the bad guy, this thing called the amyloid precursor protein, which is just what it sounds like, the precursor to the amyloid that is damaging to the blood vessels in the brain. So, and the advantage of this RNA targeting is that it really doesn't attack anything else. That doesn't mean that anything can be known to be 100% safe. There are issues. There's the issue that Dr. Vermeer mentioned, Professor Vermeer, that in order to get access to the brain, these have to be given basically through a spinal tap. So that's not anybody's favorite thing to do. But once it is given, it keeps working for some time. It doesn't get thrown out of the body as quickly as something that's given in the vein or as a pill, and so continues to do its job of knocking down this RNA, the blueprint that makes the toxic protein. So what does any of this mean? Well, the TRACK study, as I think both Hamid Zarabi and Marika Vermeer said, is not just an isolated study sort of floating out by itself. It's very much tied to this possibility of leading directly into a trial, potentially very directly into it, even to the point that people who participate in the TRACK study, that some of their information on how their tests change before they're getting a treatment, that can be used as sort of a before and after comparison. So this is, the two are very closely tied together. The ability of people to participate in the TRACK study when they can absolutely establishes both the groundwork and the actual ways to analyze the actual treatment part of a study. And the last comment I'll make about a study, and this is again certainly nothing is decided, and there are no details. I will answer as many questions that people have as I can, but that in many trials, some people get the actual active treatment, and some people get the placebo, the one that seems like it's you're being treated, but in fact it's a treatment that doesn't contain any active drug. But for most of these trials, there's a point where the random part of the study is over. You have enough information of comparing the placebo to the actual treatment, and at that point, typically everybody who wants to gets the active treatment. That's a very common way for studies to be organized, and there are several reasons to do that. That information is still very valuable to the people who are testing the effectiveness and the safety of the treatment. And it also is a way to encourage people saying, well, maybe you're saying, why do I have to do this study if I'm not going to get the actual treatment? The idea is to be able to say, well, everybody will get the treatment either right away or after some period of time that it takes to where the treatment needs to be compared to a placebo. So there's a lot that's exciting. The excitement comes with anxiety, with fear. Research studies are always just that. If we knew the answer, there wouldn't be a need for a research study. So there's always uncertainty. But I can say with honesty, and I think I can speak really unanimously for everybody you see in front of us, that we've never been more excited. This is the place that we've wanted to get to for a long time, and it's just a pleasure to be able to discuss it with this group and to be at this moment that's so full of positive possibilities. So thank you very much. Sit down. Yes, I can do that.
There's a big disadvantage being after Steve. It's called time. I've been told to cut it a little bit, and I will, but because there's stuff I can say on a different basis, so that's all right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here and to be able to speak to you all. I feel very privileged, actually, to have this opportunity. For the last 3 days, I've been able to talk with many people and hear what's been happening in the CAA world. It's been a bit confronting at times, knowing the talk is about me, my brain, my people, my loved ones. It's a really odd situation to be in. At the same time, it's really quite fascinating because I see passion, I see total commitment to the subject. And in one-on-one conversations, I felt the desire for there to be solutions, the hope for change and answers. And I'm thankful to see and experience the care you researchers have for us. And on behalf of all of us, I want to say to you, thank you very much. We do appreciate it. We pray it will be blessed. In case you don't know me, I'd like to introduce myself and my position in all of this. I'm Dini Plug, the family rep between the researchers and my family. I like to let the family know what's happening on the research front, direct questions where they need to go, have a feeling of what's happening amongst the family members. So it's just a bit of a go-between. My family carry the gene for DCAA, an early onset type CAA. In a way, we're a gift to researchers because we have CAA early, before our health becomes compromised with other issues. And also, if we have the gene mutation, if nothing else happens first, we will go down that track. And so we can be studied at a very early time. And that's also why the young people, the next generation, are being called in so that that early research can be done. So just for a bit of history, it's about 15 years ago I was driving along the freeway and first heard Ralph Martins on the radio talking about Alzheimer's, about lifestyle changes for Alzheimer's. I thought to myself, other than the amyloids being deposited in the brain tissue, that description of Alzheimer's could be the disease our family has. The only difference was the amyloids, where they were causing the hassle. So I thought to myself, I wonder whether the lifestyle changes for Alzheimer's would be relevant to us and possibly slow down the DCAA, as we now call it. Being a student at ECU, was easy to find Ralph's details, and I asked the question. Like a pebble falling into a still pond, the ripples of that question are still felt today, and I believe will continue to fall for a long time from here. I'd like to reflect on some of those ripples. The most obvious is the invitation to join research, the Diane study, so the progress of the disease could be checked out more carefully, with the hope that one day there would be a solution. So began the bi-yearly tests some of us were involved in. Then Diane wouldn't include us in their trials because of the danger they may trigger bleeding in the brain. That was pretty disappointing. But soon the research joined the Dutch group, and this time focused directly on DCAA, and that was good news. And now we stand at the next part of the road, TRACK DCAA, and a hope of drug trials in the future. All this is really amazing. And at this point, I also want to just get you to think about just how small we actually are, and yet it's got to this point. That on its own is a real miracle. And that's why I encourage everyone to get involved in the way that they possibly can. TRACK is important to future research. It's a study to get a baseline information, and from here, now I'm talking in real layman's language. If I'm wrong, someone will correct me, or not. It's a study to get baseline information, and from here, there is the possibility of getting involved in trials. I've had contact with a lot of you and encourage you to join, and I keep saying that. If you're able, join. The process is simple. I've just been through it. It's actually easier than Diane, to be honest. It's shorter. And unless you have the I part of it. The time actually spent doing the testing is much shorter. The lumbar puncture, I was scared of that. Yep, I don't like the idea. However, it's now in the research centre rather than in hospital, and that has taken the pressure of having a lumbar puncture down by a long shot. To go into the hospital, you have to go through all those procedures. You know, hospitals are a bit icky, especially for healthy people. And to go into the hospital then made it a big thing. But now just going into the research centre, being surrounded with people who know your journey, it's much, much nicer. It's much more pleasant to have to then go get it done. It's a whole lot less stressful. So, and I'm still up and about. Didn't make much difference to my life at all. So it's really important. I'll say it once more. I wasn't going to say it so much, but it really is important to get on board if we can. Research and further participation in Perth is dependent on people joining. That's the bottom line. There are other ripples, of course. Now, I'm going to go through this really fast. Ripples that spread into my own life. I'm going to talk about me because I know all about me, and I can't be accused of representing someone else incorrectly because it's me. But I think that you will recognise elements in yourself or in others. Most importantly, I'm Christian, and therefore see the world as created and directed by God. And I totally trust in his kingship, in genetic formation, in discovery of it, in the research, and in the impact it has on my life. I've always been interested in brain stuff. Once upon a time, I wanted to be a brain surgeon. Didn't happen. I'm a teacher. I was just about to say I have more influence than a brain surgeon does. Probably. At least my influence is wider, maybe. Still now, I'm fascinated with psychology, and I'm fascinated with the way God uses matter to make the person who I am, or people who everyone is. It's amazing. That change from matter to person still fascinates me. And Anyway, because of this, it really is no wonder that I'm the person that heard that interview. It's no wonder I was the person that asked the question, and it's no wonder that I'm still here representing you people. Well, representing, being the in-between. At the time when the pebble was dropped into my life pool, the water was still really calm. Dad and his generations had passed away some time ago. I was in my late 30s, and life was pretty exciting, to be honest. I was just going back to uni, and with a change of direction in my life and the discovery of the joy of art, I had lots to occupy my mind with. DCAA didn't worry me at all. I was all fine with it. And it still doesn't, because the big picture has not changed in my life. But daily life has a tendency of being challenging at times. And I want to be realistic about that too. You know, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you got every answer. Doesn't mean that today the life that you have to go through to get there is going to be any easier. Actually, when I first found out that I had DCAA, it was accidental. I could read the tables of information that we were given. And so I accidentally found out. And with following health information, it was probably the case. I had DCAA. I thought I was okay. My thyroid stopped working for about 4 months. How that's possible? Don't know, but it did. And I was thrown into the medical system, and I had to sort of try to work out my life. So I reckon for about 6 months, my life was pretty well rather confusing for a while, until I could restabilise and reground myself where it really ought to be. And that regrounding was important. Basically, what I had to do is I had to reconfirm who I was, why I live, what God meant in my life and my relationship with Him. And once that stability was there, the rest all sort of fell back in place. You know, when I hear other people speak, they say the same thing. Most days are good. Every now and again it's not. Doesn't mean that DCAA is going to be easy. The journey ahead is not going to be easy. But working on that basis is really, really important to continue that through no matter what. DCAA starts affecting your life. I'm going to just skipping through what I was going to say. DCAA does start affecting life decisions. It affects your future. It affects how you think about the future. It affects your generations. It affects your loved ones hugely. Just having DCAA, sometimes I think it's easier to have it than not, than be the loved one, the carer, because it blows my brain as to the the longer-term future, because grief adds on to each other, right? And so as carers, it's huge. It's huge. Right now, that's the difficulty I'm actually having, just to see that and let it be okay. But the one thing I do want to encourage you about, first of all, it is joining in as much as possible, encouraging others, talk freely about it, make it normal, because it is normal. And on top of it, it's really hard to be alone, to walk this journey by yourself. Doesn't mean everyone's got to know everything about you, that's not true. But I do call you to reach out to each other and be gentle. Be there, listen, love each other, support each other, and be together. Be together in life, be together in that research as well. Thanks.
That was beautiful, Dini. Thank you. Yes. It feels, I'm feeling a little bit conflicted as to, we only had 2 hours for the forum, and I realize now that that is really, really short. And we've put all the speakers in a very short timeline, and you got a lot of info, and I think all the information about the disease, about the research, about the what participation means, what it means for our future, what a potential trial could mean, and also what it means in a personal life. I realize that that is a lot to take in, probably. I just want to ask Sam if can we use the break room a little longer? If you have time for questions now, we just move it up a little bit. Is that okay? Okay. If that's okay with you guys, it will take about 10 minutes for you to ask questions to our panel or the family members, and then we'll move to break after. Oh, yeah, sure. If you have a question, make sure you have the microphone first, because we're also filming this, and otherwise people won't hear your question, so thanks. Are there any questions? Ralph has a question? No, I'm kidding. Yes?
While people are thinking of their questions. Hello, everyone, and those of you who have met me before, welcome again. I'm the grandfather of the study, so I just thought I'd just say just a few words to you. Soon I'll be forgotten, but what I wanted to bring and emphasize the point about, I'm really grateful to Dini here, who really made this happen. And in America, there was a similar thing happened for Diane, which is the families have genetic mutations that get Alzheimer's disease. And that one family member resulted in Diane, which is now a major international study. And because the numbers of people are so few in a particular country, we couldn't do it on our own. So we came together. Initially, there was 11 different centers around the world. Now there are over 20 that are doing it. It's been profound. Here, with respect to the Dutch CAA, there's only 2. There's people in Holland and people here in Perth. And what I want to let you know is that I'm a very committed person. I guess it's fate, what you want to call it. If I take on something, I'm going to take you go all the way. And that's what we are committed to do. And just to let people know that with Diane, for example, when we started the study in Australia, we were the poor cousin of Melbourne and Sydney. Large populations, we had a small population, we only had 2 families. We didn't look like we were going to be viable. But this team of ours, we persevered, and we are the most long-lasting of all the sites in Australia. So just to give you hope that we can do it. Believe me, we can do it. We're going to get those numbers up there. And I also want to give you all some hope about what's been happening. Alzheimer's, it looked like a hopeless situation. It's the same amyloid, it's just where it's located. Now, we found the amyloid in plaques here in Western Australia, 2 buildings down, with Colin Masters, who was here. And now, 38 years later, there's a drug. Literally, drugs are coming on the horizon for amyloid, for Alzheimer's. That's why I'm very confident the way the technology is moving, that we will be able to do something for the families here. But we obviously need your participation. And I'm also very grateful. I think it's something to do with things are meant to be. Dini was the one who really got me involved. We were committed. We got Professor Alzheimer moment from Diane, Professor John Morris, who heads the Diane study. And we pleaded with him to take us on board, to take you families on board, and he did it very graciously, knowing that it was a bit different, and that's why we were able to do work for the last almost 14 years now on some members of your family that have been very informative, both for looking for early ways of detecting it in the blood, and also through MRI. We had a very beautiful presentation from Harvard, from our colleague of Harvard, Professor Greenberg's colleague, that showed the benefits of your involvement have been pretty huge there. So I'm very confident with your participation, we're going to make a difference. We're going to do this. That's all I wanted to say. And so please, if y'all can help us in any way, we're also very happy to help you make this journey a success for all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Ralph. I just want to give you guys a chance to ask questions now. Are there any questions? I mean, I can understand if you want to think about it a little bit and ask them later. We'll be here as well, so don't worry about that. But I just want to make sure that going into break, you're all taken care of when it comes to what you want to know and what you need to know. Is there a mic?
Is there anybody here that's thinking about doing the TRACK study? Just undecided yet? I did the TRACK study just 2 months ago, and I was worried about the long-term commitment. All I had to do was 2 weeks this year and then a follow-up 2 weeks next year. That's all I'm committing to with this TRACK study. When the trials come, I can decide then if I want to do the trials. And the lumbar puncture was fine. And the memory testing was a challenge, and I'm looking forward to seeing how I'm going to score next year to what I did this year. I'm glad that I have an MRI scan now on record, and that can be compared to my MRI scan next year when I take one and see the progress. Don't hesitate. Just commit to the study. It's a commitment for this year and next year, and the information that the researchers are going to get from it is going to be invaluable. We've got 3 generations at least here right now, today. Let's make it 3 generations and more in 10 years' time because of this research.
Thanks. Yeah, just one little comment on that. I think what's funny and what you guys need to know when you're analyzing your data, people practice their memory. So I don't know how accurate your data actually is. Yeah, I think it's just a good time for us to go to break.